Ministry is the answer to that. And so we call upon them to have their say in the matter, which we will take into account. And then we come with a final report. Maybe only thing is now, what happens is, okay, our sort of prima facie report now, then you will have to perhaps send it to us, to Bombay, and perhaps we finalize it and send it back to you. And you can have a program after about a month, when you officially release a final report. Some such thing you can do.
Yes.
We have done that. In some days we have done it, not that we have not done it. For example, other day I went to Bhubaneswar, where we conducted an inquiry on the victims of the cyclone, super cyclone. And we found no rehabilitation taking place at all. Everywhere we found neglect. People are suffering. Nothing has been done. I tell you, it's a very shocking thing there. Lakhs of people are without proper shelter, without hope, and compensated negligible amount, and all of them, many of them are suffering. So again, we did the same thing there. We heard for 3 days. We recorded statements, saw the places, everything. All those things came in the press and so on. And what were the government statement, what officially, unofficially we could get, we collected all of them. Now we made an interim report, and again the final report will be released in another few days. So you can do that. There's nothing. To avoid, if they say that we are not been heard, okay, we can. Would they have come? Answer is no. But anyway, we'll give them a chance. Okay, we can do that. There's nothing wrong.
That's an excellent idea. So we will do an interim report, send it to the government, ask them to give their comments.
Yeah.
If they do give, we'll
take that into account and then finalize it.
We'll publish it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll make the final report after.
Yeah, you can.
But we won't wait endlessly, of course. We'll wait for a month or so.
Yeah.
Not more than that.
Yeah, of course, we can't wait beyond that. Again, what we are trying to do, as I understand, some of the individual cases which have come before us, individually we may recommend some recommendation will be there. But generally, we will have a sort of general report as to general conditions here because of the army. What the army has been doing, what is the act of the people, what kind of violations are taking place, and more or less we now same pattern everywhere. We know what's happening. They come, take away, then you disappear. People are arrested, tortured. I mean, it's a normal thing that we've seen now.
As far as major recommendations go, I think first and foremost we should do a detailed analysis of the fact, in the light of the fact that the armed forces has been upheld in the light of these incidents. I think we should really give a detail as to why it still is not needed and we don't want it.
But what's possible in my mind is we should appeal to the Supreme Court to review that judgment. According to me, the judgment is we have written articles, we have criticized the judgment. So we will have to request the Supreme Court.
Perhaps this report could form a basis of the review.
Yes.
Because the review has to be based on certain materials which are not brought to the notice of the court. Perhaps this, I think.
Yeah, so we have to request the Supreme Court review that judgment, one. Secondly, we also want to point out Supreme Court, there are observations are there as far as the list of do's and don'ts, and everything has been violated here. And you want to point out, this is what you didn't take into account. See, you said you are sacrificing do's and don'ts, but now what we see is the exact opposite of that. So we want to point out, we will try to include as many as we can. And of course, when the final report comes, you can have a detail.
If you don't of any help, I can give you the original counter affidavit filed by the Union of India Assembly. Why they thought the Armed Social Power Act was you can see the change, the thought perception in 1980 and see the reality today.
Yes.
I'll give you, I got the original petition as well as the original counter.
Okay, you don't need to see that.
What does it say? They dealt with basically. They
the reason they said that.
I wouldn't know, right now offhand, it's quite long, but what they said was that it was basically because of the emergence of armed groups threatening the sovereignty and security of the country.
See, what is good notification, because under the law, what they have said is this has to be periodically reviewed. And what could appear is that Supreme Court has fixed 6 months period. So now routine notifications are being given. So we can collect some copies of notifications.
It has all come out in the newspapers.
That we have to do it notification we have not been able to get it. And secondly, of course, Supreme Court has still stuck to the subjective satisfaction. That's as if ethics. See, this is the unfortunate part. In many cases, Supreme Court has said we are not satisfied. What was the attitude in the past? An administrative order, the officer has only say, I am subjectively satisfied. Then of course the court would not go into it. Later on he said, no, that is not enough. If an administrative order has civil consequences, then the court can go into the merits of the order, strike down and so on. Then again we went further. Wherever there is the likelihood of persons required to be heard or some kind of quasi-judicial, again proper hearing, proper material, subjective satisfaction with objective material. This is how we put it in the Supreme Court. And finally what we said, whatever you do, whatever administrative order, quasi-order, judicial, whatever it is, the test is whether it is fair, just and reasonable. Now see, is it fair, just and reasonable that this Armed Force Special Powers Act should continue in this city? Who has done that? The routine where you say, whereas also it is the act be extended. It's all we have done, they could not have done anything. I'm told a bunch of such notifications were given to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court did go through all those, I don't think. It was specifically argued that subject satisfaction is not enough, there should be proper guidelines, there should be proper material. The Supreme Court unfortunately ignored it. And that, of course, I think requires repeats. Because that contrary to many other judgments, where they said we are not without guidelines, is arbitrary. And now here, of course, they say it's not arbitrary. I think that's the way it has gone on. And what I understand, I don't know, I think you can ascertain from the advocate who appeared. I'm told the government gave some lot of materials to the judge, but they were not given to the advocates. It's something shocking. Supreme Court should see the material, not the advocates. I don't understand this. This is something very shocking.
I was in the room of the court number 1 when this bunch of rape.
That's it.
And all kind of intelligence report can be sent. All kinds of, all inconsiderable.
How could you have seen that?
And I am sure that those were all intelligence report.
Must be, yes.
Which is based on
Tata law was upheld like that. If you see the judgment of Tata law, the first 3 or 4 pages of Tata judgment, Tata's case, you'll find what the government has said about the terrorists, what bomb blasts, all those have been said in detail. But what is equally important is how the law has been misused, how various articles have appeared, how the law has been applied. That is never taken into account in Supreme Court. And that's how Tata law was upheld. You see, how they look into one side, but the government says, but they don't take into account what the victims of application of Tata, see how many persons have been arrested. All the various things, articles by PUDR, PUCL, so many articles are there. And the detailed reports have come in different papers. They didn't take any of those things into account. You see, they only took what the government says and they say, okay, this law is justified and this has been justified. See, this is the unfortunate part. I think so therefore our main appeal is to urge upon the court to see whether they can give a review. And I think this material, all the material that we collect, perhaps will be of help to you to make an application at some point of time. One of these cases can go back to the Supreme Court, request the Supreme Court to report a larger bench and some such.
Secondly, besides the act, we don't want the army.
That's another, yes. So prima facie we feel the army is not required because the problems that are here are problems which can be seen everywhere.
Yes.
See, all over, this is not a new problem. These kinds of problems are there. Say, India the other day, how every day people are...
Look at Delhi, look at your new capital.
Yeah, Delhi people are being killed. It's all over last year. This year we had met up in Bombay. Last year in Bombay, every day we had one encounter killing. I think last year or year before last. That was a record. Every day one killing, encounter killings in Bombay. It went on. This year, of course, it's come down. It's not.
But will anybody dare to make Bombay a disturbed area?
Yes, exactly.
Just because this is...
yes, exactly. I think that's one of the recommendations we have to do.
So army can be confined to these borders?
No.
International border?
Okay, army can be sent. See,
BSF is there. We don't do that.
see, army can be sent. See, the point is, without the act, army can still be sent. Because army can only be used for the purpose is aiding to the civil power, civil authority. Whenever state government feels that the local police are not enough to control a particular situation, okay, they can say, please send one army, we want this to go there. But why this act? Without the act, army can't use, army can certainly use. So where do you see, this is, powers are given under the act. You see the constitution, that the subject under which they have made the law is by way of an aid to civil power of the state. So that army can be sent. There's nothing wrong with that. Or suppose there's a remote corner of Manipur, some trouble is there. The local people, local police are not enough. Because the state government
should go back.
State government can call the army to come and help us in that particular place. But now, why this armed force, this special act? That I don't understand. But the trouble is with the act, is that power to shoot and kill and do whatever they like. Say raid any house,
anticipation of a commission of a crime. That's also in anticipation.
Yes.
There are also belief of a non-commission.
Yes. And of course, Supreme Court says we have given directions that firing should be only ordered by the NCO or and so on. And what instance this has been done by NCO? Every Jawan has taken a gun and shot. I mean, there's no such thing at all. It's all nonsense. So this army is, I think, certainly not required. I think that is general feeling.
How could we justify that armies are not required at this point of time in our region? How could we justify it? I mean, the armies are not required at
Army is not required in the sense the army with the under the Act, Armed Forces Special Powers Act, is not required. It is left to the state government to seek the help of the Indian central government by way of assistance whenever there is such an internal disturbance which they feel they cannot control with their own police. They can always do that.
But X says clearly that
they can say we want an army. Call an army, then army will not kill. You see now Bombay, the riots took place. When the Babri Masjid riot, the state government had its own police, but that was not enough. So they requested the central government to send the army. Army came, but army had no opportunity to deal with the way it is done under the Armed Forces Special Powers Act. Army came like a body to aid the civil power, the local police. And therefore, wherever the shooting has to be done, it has to be done by the magistrate. Magistrate gives an order, or then only you can fire. You can't do that. All the things were controlled. So the civil authorities had a control, not the army. Army only came to help the local government. That they can do, even today. Who says Manipur government cannot ask for the help of army? They can. But they can't bring them under this act. That's important.
Can I ask you one thing?
Yeah.
Now in 20 years, you're a Manipuri? 20 years. Has the Indian army controlled insurgency or it has given rise to more insurgency? What is your answer as a Manipuri?
In fact, if we relied on the act, the army, armies are deployed in our region, particularly in the act of civil administration. The act reveals the clear point of it. And there is no contradictory opinion on this, because whether armies are helping or not, because the act says clearly.
I'm asking you as a Manipuri.
Yes.
There's insurgency in the northeast. In Manipur, there is insurgency. Government says I'm bringing the army to control insurgency. 20 years. Insurgency has been controlled or insurgency has been increased? What is the answer of the Manipuri? If it is increased, then you have the answer. Should the army be there or not?
Actual difficulty lies with the implementation of
one more question I'll ask you. Suppose the army is removed or the army is curtailed, then insurgency will be less. There will be more freedom for people. Okay, let me ask you this question. Suppose the army is removed, Manipur people will be happy?
We will be happy. We do not know whether it will be all right or not.
No, I tell you.
That's a fact.
Exactly.
We'll be happy, but the thing will be all right or not.
Manipur people will not be happy if there are insurgents all around shooting everybody. They'll be happy only if there's peace. Therefore, Manipur people will be happy because by the army going, there will be peace in Manipur. Correct?
Yeah, you just don't know who to blame because the enemy will go.
Anyway, I think we should hear his point of view.
No, I would like to know, because this is the question which I've been asking.
address to
And
this
when I say,
this is the general
please try to understand. all states, when they cannot manage internal disturbances on their own, require the central government or other state government to give a help. And it's the duty of the central government to send such assistance as the state government requires. And it may be in the form of CRPF, it may be in the name of security force, it may be in the name of army. Earthquake took place in Latur, Maharashtra. Then what is it? Local people could not manage. We sent for the army. Army came and did, but army did not kill. The point is, if necessary, army can come. Army will control the situation. Army will assist the local civil power, but not under the Armed Forces Special Powers Act. What your objective is to this act, that once the act goes away, if the local government feels to for the purpose of controlling insurgency, they want some battalion to come from the central government or from a neighboring government or somewhere, okay, call them, only for a limited purpose. But then army will not have the control. Today army is so super in a pervading here in the sense, everyone, even the police officer, before registering case, thinks twice. What should he do? Can he do that? He has no power to call for record. He has no power to do anything. He can't even prosecute. This is the problem. Whereas that such thing will never happen. We don't say in the sense, oh, the state government should not have an army at all. No, we don't say that at all. What we are saying is, it should not be under this act. See, this act, in fact, I intend to say, this is a theory which I have been discussing. Where do you get this right to kill? You study the Constitution. Is there a provision anywhere in the Constitution that anyone has a right to kill? There is no provision in the Constitution for right to kill. There is no provision in any statute with the right to kill, excepting in the Indian Penal Code, Section 100, where by your defense you can kill. If you feel, if you don't kill, that man will kill you, or kill somebody else, or you'll damage some property. Now, if that is so, but who justifies that killing? Not that I, not a police officer. That has to be justified by the court. You have exercised your right of defense. If you justify, well and good. If you don't justify, you commit murder. You are prosecuted for that. Now, what we have done is, okay, this is one situation. There may be another situation. That situation may be a war. In a war, you have an enemy. And you have no choice but to kill. Okay, both sides try to kill. Are we to imagine that people of Manipur are enemies of the central government or any other government? Because you give a power to kill them. How do you do this? It's fundamental wrong. We have said Article 21, not to take away anybody's lives except by a due process of law. Now what is due process? Is this due process? Shoot to kill, declare this area, disturbed area, and I don't like your face, and shoot. And then justify, okay, you have done this, can you do that? See, this is the main problem. This act has been so misused. It's a draconian law, we have all condemned. But unfortunately, the Supreme Court upheld. Just as they upheld Tara law. Both judgments are wrong. So people have to get their public opinion, say that we don't want this kind of law. That's important.
Do you feel that this place
is like an emergency? Yeah.
So, okay, well, let us have it declared formal.
Exactly.
Even emergency, now it's very clear. Even under emergency, Article 21, 22, or 20, 21 cannot be taken. All your rights are intact.
Emergency, how do they can?
No, my point is that the government should. The government should make a stand whereby they can say this area is different from the rest of the country in terms of.
Then we will also join.
The government cannot say we are all equal, and then Article 14 they say no, but you shall have armed forces special power. Because this is something special. But otherwise we are all equal. Yes. Article 14.
I know.
In 1980, I wrote an article for the Indian Express in which I said that all Indians are equal, but some are less equal than others.
Exactly.
Right.
I said, I was born out of 14.
I just constant discrimination, the feeling,
Because one basic thing is that some people have the idea.
Same feeling. It feels so uneasy.
Yes, because some people have the idea, yes, if the army is there, well, it will act as a deterrent.
In your own state, you consider it suspicion, if you're riding a scooter and and somebody talking to you in the language which you yourself know in your own. Okay, I can understand if a Manipuri is in Bombay or in Delhi and some state security forces is talking to them in Hindi, you know.
Yeah.
But in your own state, somebody is making you alien, you know, by talking in an alien language, and then threatening you, you know. It is a very, it is like, you know, as if there's no words.
But also, what was taking into consideration the fact that present government while discussing this, also kindly don't forget that there's a political system at work with the government.
Government itself, really blame our government.
There's also a tendency to justify everything under the Armed Forces Special Powers Act. The Armed Forces Special Powers Act doesn't allow the army to interrogate. Army has no power to interrogate. They can apprehend and hand over to the police. They can't interrogate the person. The Armed Forces Special Powers Act doesn't allow anyone to be tortured by the army. See, so there's a...
They can disappear.
Correct. So you can't torture, you can't interrogate, and you can't do indiscriminate firing. You can't say somebody shot at me, therefore I shot at people in the bazaar. Therefore there's a tendency, I find, even among our people, to say Armed Forces Special Powers Act, therefore the army has the power. Army has no power.
Exactly.
They cannot even interrogate you. If they arrest you, they can't interrogate you. They must hand you over to the civilian police. That's the special don'ts in the Supreme Court. So now they are interrogating, they are torturing, and they are indiscriminate fire. So many of the cases reported to Justice Suresh, indiscriminate fire. One underground person shot at us, therefore we shot at 13, killed 13 people. And we give them compensation of 20,000 rupees each. So none of this is covered by the Armed Forces Special Powers Act. So even if the act is constitutional, the army's actions are contrary to the act. The army's actions are illegal, and why do you want the army to go? Even if the Armed Forces Special Powers Act remains, the army must go, because they are misusing the act.
Actually, it doesn't help also. Because right in the bazaar area, where Kangla is here, the bazaar is there, Thangal bazaar, Pound bazaar, every day the business people, this community can complain of being extortion. But so the Assam Rifles Empire told them, why don't you inform us? Why don't you give us information? Are you going to provide us security to us? So no, we can't do that. So it goes on. Therefore, by increasing also, because obviously army cannot provide security to each and every individual person here. Even if we assume that the threat is there from the other side, that assuming to be correct, the threat is from the other side, extorting, killing. Can the army ensure the physical safety of everyone? That they cannot do that. And in spite of their presence, nothing is going on. Therefore, mere increase also will not help, because it's a different thing. Because it's not a purely military problem that it has to be solved militarily with the help of army. It's much more than that. Yeah.
It's possible the local police are not trained enough. It's also possible local police are not enough in number to protection to all people. For example, in Bombay at one time when the riot took place, you see there were 220 police Shiv-Sena shakas were there in the city, and the total constables now was we had about 200 constables in the whole city of Bombay at that point of time. So each shaka was run by a Shiv-Sena leader and equivalent to a gunda. Shiv-Sena leader means is a gunda. So imagine 220 gundas operating and 220 police managing. It's just not possible. This is how it happened. Okay, then you can call an army. Certainly, if you feel you want to vote, but not under this act. Scrap of this act, keep the army board, okay. But then all this can't be done. They can't get to kill or arrest or anything. They have no power. They are only in aid of the police. Police will go, and with them they can go and do something. Okay, you can do that, but certainly these powers are not.
That's what they did in Punjab actually. Punjab, the army would call it, give whistle overnight, and next morning the police would go in and do the search. That is actually how they did it. The army were given the same powers, the Armed Forces Special Powers Act. Punjab, another act. But they didn't do the actual combative. Let's use either combating terrorism or military or insurgency, whatever it is. The police were there. They were there also. They were there in the outer territory kind of thing. But reply to your question, there's quite a number of things. Actually, the strength is about 20,000. There are at least now 13 battalions, 11,000 are armed police.
Yeah.
Each battalion has approximate strength of 1,000. This is how we calculate. So there's quite a bit of our own police presence. They are specialized in it.
Biggest employment generation unit.
Sir, one thing we feel, so even though there is no Armed Forces Special Power Act, there is a similar provision under the CRPC also, under Section 130 and 131. That could be employed whenever some deployment of the armed forces in the area of civil power is required in Manipur.
Yeah.
Even though there is no Armed Forces Special Power Act, if the situation so demands, then government can always use the CRPC also.
Yes,
So it is for this reason we feel that this is something which is superfluous. Unnecessarily, this act has been enforced.
Yes, I agree with you. Yeah, you're right.
And sir, if you kindly remember this historical background of this act also, when it was especially meant for Assam. Of course, it was not meant for today's Assam.
Assam, whole of Assam.
But it was meant especially for Nagaland, because Nagaland at the time was part of Assam. District of Assam.
Yes.
Or the hills, Naga Hills.
Yes.
Now in Naga Hills, practically there was no civil authority.
Yes.
There was no civil because the British because the policy they said that this interference.
Yeah.
So there was no civil administration was allowed to develop.
Yeah.
Now when this problem came, there was no civil authority to deal with this problem.
Yes.
Therefore they brought this act to deal with this because in absence of any civil authority, police, they had to deal with this army. But this is not the case in Manipur, where a civil authority exists. Whatever limitations, weakness, or whatever you have.
Yeah.
Remember this?
Yes.
I see the genesis of the act was in Nagaland.
Yes, because Naga Hills district was part of Assam.
That's what I call it.
Yes, I know.
And at the time, Nagaland was the least interfered state. During the British, it was least interfered because the British government said, for example, is Nepal, today's Arunachal, and inner line permits. This in British time. They said, no interference with these tribal people. Let them continue with their tribal, will not interfere. Therefore, they did not allow, except for some political agents, officers, extra commissioners, they used to call assistant commissioners, political officers. They used to have direct link with these villages, and they used to connect with the governors of Nagaland and of Assam at that time. Therefore, there was no civil administration. Now, when this problem came up, therefore they said, well, we will bring in army. That's how this. But it is not a situation here. Already we have a civil administration. Whatever may be reasons, he is not able to cope up, whatever it is. But
essentially, again, counter-insurgency operation is also that's why Derby does Avila war. It's powers given to Avila. But also it corroborates with what you're saying. So even at their own setup, they wouldn't like have a captain or a leader going all of this. So they want to delegate that power to the first person available, which is them.
because it is available. Easily available.
In UJ, we have vast resources of the army in the state. We feel that there is one empire only. We feel that as people of this democratic country.
So if you look at that age gap, then the troop deployment ratio is there.
Yeah, if we survey in locality, then there are most of the people have has one empire. This is there's one empire only, and somebody may have empire. Both by
Empire is always necessary.
yeah.
Can I ask you as a member of the Human Rights Commission, do you feel, your opinion, that the role of the army and the introduction of the Special Powers Act has helped curb insurgency or just fuel insurgency?
Let me not answer that as a Let me answer as a person who's studying.
Yes. I think you answer as a personal capacity. Okay.
As a person, because I have studied.
That not come from the humanitarian.
Your personal opinion.
It does not come from the humanitarian. From your individual.
You will have to understand that when you ask that question, you have to also take into the fact that this place is at best described as a functional anarchy. This place is functional anarchy. It's anarchy, but it's still functional. and the development of the region, the failure of the planning model. I just think that the army is just part of the problem. That's all is the problem. If insurgencies looked into it, it has to be multidimensional. It has to be looked into from different angles. You can count the foreign angle out, and the foreign hand theory is long gone then. I think the problem is extremely important. That's why I said you have a government here, which is supposed to be very popular. This is stated as the government that has preserved the territorial integrity of the state of Manipur. This is the government that has initiated the formation of the Human Rights Commission office in the state. But this is also the same government that has asked for Manipur. So I mean, it's very complex. Because it is not in terms of law by law encounter. As I said earlier, that in the 50s the army was present in Nagaland. By 50 years hence, they are all over all parts of the region, and the number of groups have gone up by I don't know how many times. In Manipur itself, in terms of armed groups, over a dozen.
Geometrical proportion.
Yeah, it's like, you know, and they're actually got people take up arms for district. So you have to understand why people take up arms. Earlier, when Angami Japu Fish was started, the Naga National School, it was for the independent state of Nag. But then you had in major organizations, there was a group of tribes for autonomous district, they took up arms. I mean, now the Gorkhas example, the Gorkhas are looking for more autonomy within this, for that they took up arms. So the accessibility to arms, the arms market, so all this had prompted variety of elements to take up arms. So now it's even more complex. You have to, there is an armed group you're demanding a separate state for their own ethnic, for which they have taken up arms. What they're looking for is within the ambit of the Indian Constitution. But for them, they have to take up arms. Now again, do you require the army to combat? So I don't think you require the army to combat. So you have a multi-layered kind of situation where you have variety of groups with different ideology, with different objectives, but with one thing in common, is the government. And I think the government of India's response, the government's response, has been done for that. But I don't think that's the solution.
I can break this vicious cycle by addressing the developmental issues as human rights issues also in these particular very undeveloped areas.
Yes, that's also one of the main causes for all various acts of...
And I don't know whether this report will permit us, but I think there is a very strong assertion by the civil society here to pinpoint and blame the corrupt practices of the government, state governments, which are not allowing funds for developmental purposes, or which are not releasing all funds for certain developmental purposes. I think that can...
It would be interesting for you to know that the Human Rights Commission had to intervene twice often is having money sanctioned by the government. And and for the Angawari programs, the milk was not being given to the children for more than a year and a half. So we had to intervene, and that kind of situation. And what you say, you're talking about bridges. I'm talking about funds for orphanages.
I think basically it's a kind of cottage industry. License is given by the government and the government also, I'm talking of the government of Manipur, not the central, because they look in a different perspective. They are not able to understand till today. And most unfortunate part is that they have not been able to understand the problem here. And which the state government has never bothered to make them understand the reality. Because that's how the Manipur government has to run. As a excuse, because all the kind of corrupt practice, all kind of irregular, all the things which are going on, if there is always an air of tension, there is an air of uncertainty, it helps them.
Central funds.
It helps them. There are thousands of rupees is coming for so-called buying new gypsies for the police, for arms, new arms, sophisticated arms for the police. I mean, for example, no gypsy for the Defence Commission, but they are bringing.
They spend about
gypsies.
The police patrol bill per month is about 60 lakhs.
Yes.
Commission's single budget is 7 lakhs. The police spend more money on petrol per month than the government spends on the commission for a year.
And if you go to a police station, another funny thing is that if you go to a police station for a normal, you are talking of a normal FIR case, not related to this incident, a normal. If you ask the police, please go and investigate. I said, no, you first give us money to buy petrol. We don't have vehicle, we don't have petrol. Yes, indeed. The complainant has to pay for a petrol and a vehicle, provide for a vehicle, provided he is willing to go. Otherwise, he is not willing to go because in Sensia, I don't want to go there.
Because this is an independent commission. Can I request something? So we can do the other aspect which you have never looked into is that I think there is an interest in keeping this area in this town.
Yes.
Because the IS officers who will come here are allowed to retain their homes in Delhi. They are given special allowances. All central government employees who are posted in the notice get the special allowances.
So there's the army and the security forces.
And
the army also.
So I think forget the army. Let's put the army away. Let's look at the civil structure. Let's look at the civil structure. The accounts people, the customs people, the post people. You look at the telegraph man. So, and this has been on for so many years, and I don't think anybody would like to bark.
It's a big racket. I mean, in other words, if I see very crudely, there's a big racket going on here by encouraging insurgency here.
So you make money by saying insurgency has gone up?
All these government tenders, the government cannot deny. All these tenders are backed by these undergrounds, many undergrounds, as well as ministers' own men in the name of underground. How am I to verify? If the minister say no, this tender is backed by undergrounds, who am I to question? But I don't know whether it is really the undergrounds or not. That I cannot verify. I don't have the guts to verify that. I don't have the means, nor the capacity, nor the guts to find out. Because if it turns out to be true, then I will fall in the wrong side of that. Therefore, the government always takes this plea. This is meant for them. Whether they actually go to them or not, we don't know. But there is absolutely lack of accountability in the administration. And always gives admission to what can we do? The underground, they come, they demand this from us. From the department, we have to give this.
Can I take you?
Yeah.
Very unfortunate political angle.
I know,
lack of
I
accountability.
see this. And they are in the same state as they were 50 years ago. And we are trying to retain with the help of the arts, with the help of all. If only we had won from the people, they had done something for them, whole thing would have been different. It's the main problem. So I think broadly we can recommend the rule of the army. And in any case, the act must be. The armed force better the application of the act must be. Then the army, okay, you want to have an army, but the army will have no powers. That's the thing. I think we should think of that.
Because the whole fear psychosis, whether this country is to be ruled, this part of the country, from that fear psychosis or armed forces power act. Because as you also correctly said, without armed forces power act also, army can be deployed.
Army can be deployed.
Therefore, what is the need? Because this act always creates a fear, apprehension in the mind of people. Because the army can do anything. That in fact they have been doing so with no accountability. Because they are immune from any court proceedings. Except of course writ proceedings. Except writ proceedings, we cannot file any suit.
You can't do anything.
With the central government sanction is required under the armed forces power act, and which is it's almost impossible.
Correct, so it's possible that judgment will last for quite some time. Correct. Now the other way is to look at the safeguards provided in the judgment or in the executive instructions of the do's and don'ts and so on. And to take it, of course, that they are misusing the armed forces special powers. Go on that track. Because if they are misusing the act, then sanction and so on may not be necessary. It may be file a writ petition and say these are the guidelines of the Supreme Court, follow the guidelines.
No, that is what actually we have been doing, filing writ petition. That's the only way out for us.
Because sometimes when a frontal attack is not possible, we'll have to take the attack from the side. Legally I'm saying that, take the attack from the side. Or the frontal attack has failed, so the act is upheld.
No, but we still have to do something about it.
No, unfortunately,
There will be anarchy in it.
but what I'm suggesting is, for example, things like the delegation by the army.
Yeah.
We must try now and get direction from the High Court or the Supreme Court in directing the army. See, half the cases were revenge cases, where they were firing on innocent people. But that is totally outside the purview of the Armed Forces Special Powers.
In fact, I was
Nobody can justify
The
that.
violations are outside the armed forces.
Yeah, nobody can justify.
in fact, I have, this is
Rape
my,
of a woman is totally outside the Armed Forces Special Powers Act. The Act doesn't authorize you to rape a woman.
it has been in fact my, I mean not only belief, my conviction that people, many human rights groups in Manipur, they always normally go for judicial inquiry, even for this army. I said, it's not going to help. My approach is that, file a writ petition,
Yes.
get an inquiry conducted by the High Court.
Yes.
You're right.
That is, whether it's through a judge or whatever, with a district judge or whatever, registrar, whatever is there. Because through that, the army cannot claim immunity. But if we go for the other way around, judicial inquiry, under the Commission Inquiry Act, then the whole problem comes up. After prolonged litigation, then the report is lying with the state government, and then state government says we cannot touch this area. Even the Sanamaja case, I think this is something we have to, our human rights, various groups have to consider on this point, because my feeling is that if we go for this Commission Act, nothing will come out of it, especially when it pertains to central forces.
But any inquiry and the Commission Inquiry Act, if the report is against the government, no government is acting on that. No one.
Yes.
The history of this country, I think all over, even whichever state you go, they appoint Commission Inquiry immediately to silence the people. So they don't only we are conducting inquiry. But by chance the report goes against the government, okay, that's the end of it. Then they will not tell the public, they will not implement, they will do all the normal behavior of the government. So they will, therefore, proper inquiry through the High Court only. What Pauline wants to say a little further, once you reach that stage, the High Court should just not leave the matter by giving compensation. High Court should be induced to give directions, guidelines. Okay, if you want to enter anybody's house, that these shall be the guidelines. If you want to do this, these shall be the guidelines. Like in the D.K. Basu's case, where if you want to arrest a person, what are the guidelines? Not that they are being observed, but at least, okay, something is said. Sometimes it will be handy. In the D.K. Basu case, that in Bombay, there are some people who find contempt petition against these individuals against that. Against some of the police officers not following D.K. Basu's case. Some such. You can do that. Something like that. But somehow induce the High Court or Supreme Court at some point of time to lay down guidelines, because they refuse to get guidelines in all these cases. So somehow we must induce them now. Okay, if in a situation like this, you shall do this, do this, do this, do this. Somehow, okay, it takes its own time, and again it depends upon the judge. It depends upon, again, it has to be implemented. The executive must have the political will to implement. So, I mean, so many things are there. It's a tough task. That's all we can do. Yes.
But they have to be very clear about what development of these human rights groups will have to leave the army and fight the development that is coming in the two of dams, which is already happening in the northeast.
That's what I'm saying. So we address developmental issues from a societal perspective. We don't want big dams. We want agricultural-based development. We want small-scale industries. We want commercialization of our fertile land. I mean, just by after going paddy here, most of the land is barren for all the year, rest of the year. Imagine, and Manipur soil is so fertile, even if you throw a mango seed like this, a tree grows. So imagine the kind of loss we are having if we have commercial, if we are encourage farmers to go for commercial rotation crops, and I don't know the terminologies, I'm not an agriculturist. But imagine all this development on agriculture basis, small scale, weaving, my God, you should see the enterprising and the entrepreneurship in women are giving. So if this can be, given some organized sectors.
What you're saying is that the money which would normally go for development is being absorbed now by the armed forces.
And by the pockets of ministers.
He gave an example of milk to the Anganwadi in Minstock.
Yes.
He gave an example of that. Are there any other examples like this of basic essential services being curtailed?
But what is better, in paper we keep reading out that even substandard rice are being, for BPL rice which is being given below poverty level, substandard being thrown. In fact, it's a regular feature in the newspapers.
Appalling.
Absolutely unconsumable.
No roof.
Is the PDS system still in place?
It is there on paper. It is there on paper. If you go to the government, it is there. But if you go visit, you won't see a center. That's the problem. But that's very unfortunate problem.
Many places they have done this. All over the country is like that. All over. 9,000 crores for the wheat is being imported. And that the Punjab farmers are not being paid. Others they are educated.
Helicopters.
That funds they're required by the armed forces, because the fund of the development fund and the security police funds, this is security police funds is more in the development fund. These things, and all this the government and as well as the bureaucrats blames the undergrounds or blames the people in the one thing is that everybody, or even as child, will think of the security forces are our protector. But the children of the Manipur are afraid of the army or security forces. When they see, then they have trust psychosis, and they feel.
My children, she's only my child. She's 5 years old. She can distinguish between a cracker sound and a bomb sound.
Especially Joy Kumar's children. They are also small. He has been chased by the army because he has. Yes, sir.
And that's it.
That's why this is the problem. It's not just the legality of it, but it's a whole new generation which is growing in this atmosphere. And how do you expect when they grow up, they naturally become violent in their dispositions. This is because they grow up in this atmosphere. So it's a very serious issue which we need to address. In our what Brother Koteshwar has just pointed out is also very true. There's a whole misrule under the SETO of Armed Forces Special Powers Act and insurgency, of course. There's a whole pattern of people. There are a lot of people in power uses this flags in order to for their own vested interests. So this is so there's a vicious cycle, and there are people who want it to continue so that people do not raise other issues. It's confined there, and this has gone. I think the basic issue is about militarization. Militarization is like apartheid; it has to go, and the basic initiative has to come from the people who are in power. Militarization and this, it's becoming something like a Cold War. More army, more insurgent, more army, more insurgent. So it's building up gradually. So at some point of time, one has to stop and say, forget it, let's go back. A Gorbachev has to be discovered, where they say, let's get down with the thing. So there's no end to it. It builds up gradually.
There is one thing also that people
Justice Verma is the judge who upheld Manav Joshi's election. So there was something with Justice Verma. So I don't know. See, what is commitment to human rights?
And he is now promoted to be a member of the Rajya Sabha.
Raghunath Mishra. Only solid thing that he did was, which I openly said, otherwise he did everything, nothing. He just enjoyed that first, the chairman National Military Commission. Only solid thing he did was, he openly, condemned Tara law, He intervened in the Supreme Court. Thereafter, Supreme Court turned him down. Then he made a huge representation as to why Tata could not continue and sent it to all the MPs. This is in 1995. This is one thing he did, and whatever he's, I don't know, but that's one of the things that he did. I must compliment only for that. Beyond that, I know recognition.
Nothing is happening in Manipur because there is disturbed area. They don't know about the
question. In Ramaso Shinga Naisu, in his case, did the NHRC communicate to the family the order? Any idea?
No, the paper is coming, then the envelope also open and some paper is missing out of the
They captured an order and a rifleman. They were charged for killing him. So actually, it was not them who killed him.
He submits to Switzerland. His finding that the army has agreed that the officers have killed a man and that a court martial will be held. But he does not communicate that in the court martial they will be acquitted.
Yes, they have to be acquitted.
So the only case from Manipur where he submits half the report, the first part. Officers are acquitted.
Yes.
All three.
Yes, because I was the person who was defending your.
You are the cause of it. Okay.
No, sir. What happened was the real story is that they were not the persons who killed Ramaso.
They brought the wrong persons.
Yes.
And they're acquitted.
Yes.
This is exactly what will happen in the rape case. That where we went DNA test maybe we don't know. You see, the real culprit was kept out. And then some numbers and names are given. The DNA test is all. Because the problem is we are unable to get any information. We can give us anything.
Sir, excuse me. Do you have any experience or case lists regarding the removal of draconian laws in other countries?
Another states.
Other countries or other states? Could you share some experience on that?
There are only laws in other countries. I won't be able to say because I don't know. I mean, I can't say. But of course, I will tell you one of the justifications which is that law commission is given for the present prevention of terrorism bill is because there is such a law in England. There is also such a law in America. This is what they say. But what I found out was, firstly, in England, there are also large number of human rights groups. I have been objecting to this kind of law, the terrorism bill which we have. And it's not that it's fully based on the English model. It's based on the Tata law. Our present law is exactly based on Tata law. And then there is one provision there under the English law that every year the minister concerned must give a full account of how the terrorism law was applied and against whom and for what reason. And there is a complete scrutiny by the parliament. So that you can't misuse. Whereas here in India, Tada was misused against anyone, not against terrorists. You see, a High Court judge was arrested Tada law, and the film stars have been arrested Tada law, children have been arrested Tada law, advocates have been arrested Tada law. All sorts of things have happened. We all know it. And 73,000 persons were arrested under Tada law when Tada law was in existence. Ultimately, the prosecutor went on only against about 3,000 odd persons in the whole country. The rest were all arrested, beaten, kept inside and let off. Can you imagine that? See, therefore, I won't be able to say about draconian laws in other countries. I don't know. There could be. You got the act, I can tell you.
The session, I think that National American Commission
can't
take action.
Army. Yeah, correct. It's exactly what we have been. You see, this was all act was drafted by the, when there was serious allegation in the government, in the Human Rights Committee, United Human Rights Committee, there were serious charges against the government that there are Kashmir people are being killed, all over the country, violations are taking place. So, in answer to that, the government had no answer. Then they said, no, we are providing a Human Rights Act, we are bringing and we are extending National Human Rights Commission. So, United Nations Human Rights Commission, okay, bring the law. So we brought this law. What is this law? He has rightly said no tooth. Justice when Kirtner once said, you have to fix dentures now because you can't bite. This kind of law you can't bite. See, all these recommendations, even other atrocities also recommendations, direct the government to do this and so on. And secondly, army is concerned only call for a report, nothing beyond that. It's no good. So we get hardly anything. And again, who are appointed? You see, the appointment member shall always be a judge of the Supreme Court. A third judge shall always be a retired Chief Justice of a High Court or a Supreme Court judge. And then one is that Karthikeyan, for the one who investigated Rajiv Gandhi's case and so many other cases. He becomes a member of the Human Rights Commission after he retired. Now in this case somebody else is being appointed. So this is how that Human Rights Commission is constituted. So there is no commitment to human rights as such. Your only qualification, you are an ex-judge of the Supreme Court. Now we have seen now, Justice Verma was upheld this Armed Forces Special Powers Act. He's the chairman of the National Human Rights Commission. Yeah. So what do you expect from him? It's the problem. So they have no commitment to human rights as such. This is what we have been now carrying on a campaign against death and civil and political rights and so on. And this is what they said. So we have given statutory recognition to these international covenants and the rights there. And yet our judges are not aware of these rights. See, many judges don't know any of these rights. They could see here before, in this case also, the Human Rights Committee has recommended that when the Supreme Court decides this matter, they will take into account certain provisions of covenant and the universal human rights. But we are not bothered to it. In fact, we had hardly touched upon Article 21. Judgment was hardly anything.
It means that in the constitution, regarding the army is about to.
Yes.
We should have some words from the two experts here who have been sitting all the time very silently.
No, we are delighted in hearing all this valuable discussion. For one thing, I feel that at least 2 times this Armed Forces Special Power Act has been brought to the notice of the court. So far we remember. One, it was admitted by the Guwahati High Court and later on transferred to Delhi High Court.
Yes.
Another one was the recent Naga people human rights case. In the both the cases, sir, I feel that the point of excessive delegation of the legislative power has not been discussed. Because we feel like this. Say in the case of emergency, certain guidelines are given that when a state is threatened by war, external aggression or by internal disturbance, then the president could take action. But under what circumstances a state is said to be disturbed area that is completely left to the discretion of the authority. Yes. So then
this point was argued. See, actually that was argued, namely the Act doesn't provide for guidelines for the declaring how this is a disturbed area. And what does the Supreme Court say? If the governor or the home minister of the government or whoever the person is satisfied, and then we can't go into that question. It's a matter of subject to satisfaction. Can you imagine that? That's the exact judgment of the Supreme Court.
But it is that satisfaction should form on the basis of certain materials.
Yes, but then you see, materials could be anything. They can say, as with regard to the fact insurgency is still continuing, we believe that the act should be concluded, declared. But is that correct? Why can't you take into all other things? Why can't you take into all other violations? Why can't you take into all this? No, government should have, Supreme Court should have given guidelines as to how this area should be declared as a disturbed area. But unfortunately, I couldn't know that.
The government of India does not allow the government to appoint secretary or the DGP. They don't want to appoint any police secretary. DGP also. And in this situation, at the limit, we feel why this is. This is, it may be the political strategy.
It is not a Manipuri.
Even the police
and the chief secretary also.
Also,
The government of India asks the government.
Is the Chief Secretary of the State of
L.K. Advani said officially that Mr. Grewal will be a better person as the DG of Manipur because he's an outsider.
Oh my God.
Officially stated in the newspaper, in the telegraph.
This is what we do. This is our notion of federalism.
Yes. It is so centralized.
Yes. We call it federalism. The unfortunate part is
they can have an idea.
So we'll slightly modify.
Democratic country, but people are powerless and helpless.
Yeah.
So these draconian law are enforcing, and there are certain underground outfits are also having more powerful. So people are in between. So there may be some causes behind them. There may be some root causes. What I mean. So governments are corrupted, and all the systems are failure.
Yeah.
People are more and more worse.
Yeah.
So there are so many reasons, so many causes to be required to be addressed.
Yeah.
Not only advocate for removal of this draconian law.
Yeah.
So other areas are also need to be incorporated.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
this is my feeling.
I agree. Actually, the worst problem, as far as I can tell you about India, is problem of poverty, and it is increasing. Poverty is increasing. So I said in one of my speeches, right not to be poor should be a human right, and that should be recognized as a fundamental right. So once you say you have no, so today what's happening? Poverty is the cause of everything. If you are poor, you have no education, you have no food, you have no shelter, you have no clothing, and you can't enforce any of these rights. Today what do you do? See, this is what is happening in Bombay. Slums are being demolished. 80,000 slums are being demolished. Houses are being demolished by an order of the High Court, which has been upheld by the Supreme Court. Again, just imagine. And we have been protesting against that. But media is against us. Media doesn't bother. Many people don't bother. But some of us are still fighting. This is how things are going on. So this is all because they are given just a land. See, rehabilitation means they think is giving 15 by 10 feet is the land. That is rehabilitation. They don't understand. Rehabilitation must mean if you had a home, you have to rehabilitate another home. That consent home is not known to them. They say, okay, given in some remote corner, one land is given, 15 by 10, you go and stay there. How to stay there? This is possible. This is the main problem.
So far the people mandate is concerned. We are against armed forces special power act. Altogether, I may not be able to say certain section of the people are in favor of the armed forces or not. I'm not sure about it.
Yeah.
But I'm certain that all the people of this state are against the draconian law, so-called armed forces special power.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we find that Indian democracy, the constitution, even they define that people mandates are the supreme.
Yeah.
And where people rules is continuing, and we could say that even the India government, even the central government, they are not listening to us.
Yes.
The people are against armed forces. What is the reason behind it?
Oh, there is of course. I think there are so many problems here. One, of course, our method of election also. Suppose you and I want to stand for election. Say, how do we? Is it possible? Suppose I want to stand, it's not possible for me. So election now depends upon what factors? Money, muscle, so many groups. This is how it goes on. So the system is built up like that today. So the genuine leader, people are not there to do. So this is how it happens. It's a vast problem. I don't know whether we can solve it in what way.
One point to add on this issue, sir. I just want to add one point on this issue. When Tada was a problem in India, in all the, of course, there are the government might be trying to impose it, but all the opposition parties manifesto included Tada.
Yes.
But if you see till today in the national manifesto of all the major political parties, Armed Forces Special Powers Act never surfaced. Yeah, and one of the ways to do away with the law is, of course, the judiciary. The other way is perhaps the parliament repealing it finally.
Yeah.
The only attempt so far made in the parliament, no political party has ever moved at least in Tada there was a public debate all over the country.
Correct.
But in the case of Armed Forces Special Powers, it affects only a very small minority, even that which doesn't articulate very well with the mainstream politics. So the only attempt that was done was basically private member resolutions.
Yeah.
And interestingly, it didn't come out from our own local people. Our local people are so scared of even touching this issue. List may be dubbed as anti-national supporters or what Lava's fate is at the moment. He had some prominence, and he's little articulate on these issues, and he has been basically branded as an anti-national.
Yes.
Or connections with the anti-national. Similarly, if you try to raise these issues at a little bigger forum, I am myself having problems now.
Yeah,
because
exactly what I said.
Reports have already gone in.
This is what I said. I said the other day. See, when I spoke about Kashmir, they described as traitors. They openly stood up and said, Justice Suresh, you are a traitor. See, because only I said, okay, you look to the people, not to the territory. And this is exactly. So locally, I can understand your predicament. It's not easy for you to come and openly speak about it.
Where is this? Where did they say you are a traitor?
Oh, you were not there. That day I spoke. You see, Indo-Pakistani Association had organized a meeting about 3 or 4 years ago. About 3 years ago. And I was invited. I'm a member of that. And we had a fairly good audience. And I was thinking, okay, how do you solve this? Make friendship, this, that. So I said, Kashmir, you can't forget Kashmir. But how do you solve Kashmir? That's the biggest problem. So when you think of Kashmir, you could not talk about Kashmir because of Tata law. But if you want to talk about Kashmir today, then you want the people or you want the territory. And when I was explaining all these things, 4 or 5 people stood up and said, Justice Suresh, you are a traitor. He said in Bombay. So this is my own mindset. People have been made to think. You see, if I go back and tell that I recommend this, they will be shocked to say that means you want Manipur to go away. If I go back and talk to people there, I say this is what you recommended and this is what I said. Perhaps they would say Justice Suresh recommended that Manipur should be seceded from India. This is what they thought. They don't understand. The problem is human problem which they don't want to understand. You see, this is a vague thing. Our leaders are culprits, so-called leaders. All of them are culprits.
But it's a basic human right. The right to self-determination is a basic human right.
Yeah.
But we can't say this.
Yes.
As single self-determination is our right. We can't say. So if I say that,
I don't think so. I think Manipuris can say it. They can say it boldly. They are absolutely protected by the constitution. And if you all don't say, then nobody can say. But you can certainly say, people of Kashmir are openly saying, right of self-determination, referendum, all these things. They are saying. I don't think you can't say. You may succeed, you may not succeed, you may be right, you may be wrong. You definitely have a right to say. Your views, you must have a right to say. You may be right, you may be wrong. Manipuris have a right to say their views. And if a Manipuri feels right to self-determination, he should say it. If a Manipuri feels no right to self-determination, he should say it. But you should not feel frightened that you have no right to say it. Definitely have a right to say it. Justice Bains in Punjab was arrested for that reason. Because he held a public meeting where he said, Punjabis have a right, Sikhs have a right to self-determination, to discuss the issue. Therefore he went to jail. But he stood up and spoke. Therefore never say you don't have the right. You have a right to say it. You have a right to discuss. Even if you are a single person, you have a right to argue.
Yeah, there the people discuss this.
Yes.
But then after saying this...
because if you say you are afraid...
I will be arrested by section 18.
No, this is the problem. This is the problem. Yeah, you say that, of course you will be arrested. Then all this will happen. Exactly. So how many people can afford to face this? The problem. What's the point you say?
We have freedom of expression, but is there freedom after expression? That's the issue. That's the issue that he wants to face.
The case of Manipuris, all are being arrested even without expressing. It's not that if you say, it's still something.
Freedom after expression.
No, I think, in fact, our federal principle, if properly understood, I think many problems can be solved with more autonomy to all the states, genuine what we want is genuine federalism. Today we have an artificial federalism. All this division of states and so on, not based on pure principles of federalism.
Ademani is a great advocate of federal principles.
Maximum autonomy.
Yeah.
I'm always stand for the maximum autonomy.
No, whatever it is, genuine federalism, so that, okay, a state wants to preserve its culture, preserve its own thing, and to what extent? You discuss, why don't you openly discuss? No, we don't want anything. No, nothing. Article 370 of the Constitution. See, the moment I say